Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, chatters.
We're starting?
I thought you were starting. That's why I started.
Hey, chatters.
One of your passwords has appeared in a data leak, putting it at high risk of compromise.
Classic.
That's so annoying. All right. This is following on from our extended family relationships episode, which is, as we said in the full episode, definitely a dynamic that most people navigate. Everybody navigates to some extent. So we thought we would follow it up with one last Reddit story.
One last hurrah. This is actually, we haven't done this before, I think, where we did that episode during my lunch break and then now doing this after we put the kids
later.
to bed.
Yeah, so it's a bit disjointed mentally. My wife is cutting herself off from the world, now wants to go no contact with her family. What should I do? Me, 40 male, and my wife, 36 female, have been married for 10 years. She has had a habit over the years of suddenly ghosting, cutting off friends and extended family members, and has recently now started saying that she doesn't want to see her parents anymore, wants to go no contact with them, wishes she'd gone no contact with them years ago, etc. If she does do this, it would leave her with no support network, etc. at all, except me and our 2-year-old son. Does anyone have any advice? Like I say, this isn't completely unprecedented. She has one by one ghosted the few friends that she's had when I met her, usually without an obvious reason, and hasn't made any new friends. She has made occasional efforts at my urging to get out, but gets discouraged and gives up easily. Her mother has been coming up for the last 18 months to give childcare for our son, and this is a significant commute for her. We really have been very lucky to have someone willing and able. But especially over the last few weeks, my wife has been getting increasingly irate with her mum, and she has told me that she wants to go no contact and won't talk to her anymore once our son goes to nursery. She doesn't seem to have a specific reason for this. When pressed, she vaguely points out her childhood, which does genuinely seem to have been a tough Asian mum experience, his words, not mine, or various perceived slights, i.e. my wife believes her mum doesn't think she's a good mother because her mother buys our son clothes occasionally, which my wife perceives as a slight on her. That's nothing outside general grandparent spoiling to me, and even then it seems on the low end of the scale. I actually do feel sorry for my mother-in-law. To my eyes, she hasn't done anything recently to deserve it and is obviously currently walking on eggshells around my wife. And I don't think that she knows that her daughter is planning to cut her out soon. I've told my wife that it would be unfair on our son, and she has grudgingly said that we can continue to see her parents, but she won't. This wasn't always the case. Even up to a few weeks ago, I'd see them laughing and joking together, and we went away on holiday together with her parents last year. If anything, I'd have said her and her parents had a close, if occasionally difficult, relationship. Anyone have any advice on how to handle this? I would just keep it calm and hope whatever it is smooths over, but my wife can be very stubborn once she's made a decision and hasn't gone back on any of her previous ghostings. Also, if she really does cut out her parents and doesn't have any other support except for me now, and of course our son, I'm worried that she really has cut herself off. She is having therapy through work, but I don't know what they talk about. The last time I gently inquired, she reasonably said she wasn't comfortable discussing that with me. End of story.
There's definitely a cultural element to this where we can't speak to
100%,
with that as well. I wonder if that has caused this thing for her where she can't talk to her mum about it because of that culture as well. But again, that's a lot of things we just can't speak to because we don't understand it.
Yeah.
We haven't experienced that. But there's the other part too where she's actually isolating herself from a lot of people as well.
It's a pattern.
And we see that a lot in older guys. So guys tend to do that more than girls do as they get older. I'm not sure why. I feel like this is my theory, is that when like guys, we're crazy when we're younger, right? We're out and about, we're quite crazy. Then work hits, we got this career and it's just busy. And then by the time it gets to weekend or whatever, we're just tired. For a lot of females, and not all, but for a lot of females, when they have kids or so forth, their ability culturally has not been as free for them to go out as much. But then when the kids are older, actually we notice this with some older females around in our lives, like when they're older, they're the ones that actually go out and have fun and so forth and catch up with friends, where older guys tend to not. And I wonder if that's got something to play with it, just in terms of, now kids are older, mum's like, I'm getting out of here now. I'm free to, hang out with people. So I wonder, I don't know why I went on that rant, because she's not a female, she's not a guy. But I think that's what's interesting is, like, I think there's something in there. There's definitely something in there with guys, and there's a lot of research going into that space with guys and isolation and so forth. And that's coming through my work as well. So the isolation part, there's something there as well. It can't just be, from my perspective, we couldn't just look at it and be like, all right, she's got an issue with her mum, and that's where the focus is. Actually some underlining stuff there that we don't know about, that he doesn't know about. And I think that's where it's hard if she's not willing to talk about it.
Yeah, I think all of it, exactly what you've said. There's a lot of red flags concerning markers that do indicate something else is happening for her, whatever it is. Could be so many things, including like insecurities, depression, like a lot of mental health stuff could be going on. And culturally, if we don't understand that. But yeah, if she's unable to talk about it, I think first thing that ever comes to mind for anything, because of what the podcast is to talk about it. And so if she's unable or unwilling to talk about it, then that's a really tough place to be in.
Just going back to our earlier episode too, though, where we were talking about you and you were struggling. And he hasn't gone into this, but I wonder if he has tried this as well, is to be, again, having the question like we did today, how can I best support you?
Yeah.
So even asking those questions, like helping her unpack those sorts of things as well, because he could be like, ask a question, not much response. All right, I want to go there again.
Yeah.
But it might be one of those things where it's like, ask, press in about 3 or 4 times and see what those responses are. The answer might be just don't go there, and that's a whole other issue. But it might be that she is actually wanting to talk about it, but is struggling to feel that she's putting it on him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's going through all those things that we keep talking about. What are the values of your relationship in terms of even in-laws and extended family? What are the values there? What do you have? Where do you want to see each other? Where do you want to see that relationship in 5 years? Going through those sorts of questions, I think, could be helpful here when discussing this, rather than the specific situation itself. And then so setting the view and the goal for the next 5 years and working back from there.
Yeah.
So, well, how do we get there? Like, what's the next step for us to actually get there?
Yeah. It's similar to a conversation we've had about you, because I confronted, if you want to use that word, addressed is probably a better word, the fact that you had started to really disengage from social things recently, like in the recent years. And I remember just like, it's something that like flagged for me a number of times. And I think it's something that I kind of raised a number of times, but there was a few times where I had to kind of really intentionally bring it up gently and just ask what was happening for you, like explore what was going on behind that, and also kind of give you my concerns in terms of how that would play out longer term. And I feel like it might be a similar thing, instead of potentially, pressing into those questions a little bit more. Like you said, maybe she's someone who just needs a little bit more help bringing that out. Also, maybe looking at maybe a time that's neutral and just addressing, being like, I've been worried about something and I want to raise it with you. I've seen a few things that happen that you've really pulled yourself away, and I'm worried about what that's going to pan out to be, like the planning ahead. What does it look like? Expressing what that concern is and why he wants to address it, and coming at it really, really gently, not in an aggressive way, not in an annoyed way, not in a blaming way, just gently trying to ask what it is that's happening for her.
Attitude of curiosity.
Exactly. I just feel like that's a blanket statement. It just works almost always in almost every situation, an attitude of curiosity, because there's reasons why she'd be cutting herself off from people, but there's deeper reasons going on for her. And if she has shame around that for whatever reason, could be cultural, could be anything, it's like a ticking time bomb. It's like trying to like uncover a buried mine or whatever. Like you just have to do it so gently and carefully, because some of those things are really volatile. They're really deeply ingrained. They're really closely tied into our identities, and we don't even necessarily understand what it all is. So people just sometimes just come in real like attacking it, or they completely avoid it and then they never understand.
I wonder if fight or flight are the only two responses.
There's a third one that someone's talked about recently. I'm trying to remember what it was. Fight, flight, or...
Anyway, you think about that. But so for me, like when I went to my isolation, a big part of it was I'm a flight person. Well, it can be both, actually. There's moments where I'm fight and there's moments where I'm flight. But for my isolation, that was a flight thing. And I think a big part of it was re-entry after isolation during COVID. And I had social anxiety and I found it very hard to go in there. So I don't know when this was written or what their COVID experience was like, but, you know, having COVID lockdowns in Melbourne, where we had some of the longest lockdowns in the world, it was very intense for me. So re-entering back into that, because I used to be a very, 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 very social person, like always out and about, always with people. And then, I don't know, COVID just, I think, brought out a whole other level of anxieties and stress and whatever else, where my life hasn't been the same since, I would say. It hasn't been the same since. It's different. In a lot of areas it's good, different, but some areas are still struggle different. But it's had a significant impact on me.
Absolutely. I think as well when your partner's we've said this before, but when your partner's in therapy and they won't tell you what they're talking about, is a really fascinating place to be long term. Like obviously in the moment or in the present, it's not necessarily something you need to share. If you really just refuse to tell me what you're talking about, I think I'd just get more and more, I'd feel more and more isolated in my relationship. Not that I need the nitty gritty of what you share or how vulnerable you are or everything you're thinking about. But
I don't think I did when I was in counselling. I think I shared with you like the general things of what I was talking about, but I don't think I went down to the nitty gritty with you.
No, but I also don't think I'm always curious. So I would always love to know, but I don't think I digged really deep into that either, because also you're not necessarily, I was maybe not necessarily ready to hear it either. But I think if you never shared that with me, that's a whole part of your life, especially when you're being intentional around, you're spending money in you're confiding in this other person, just not sharing at least a part of what it was, to me is concerning. It's obviously not our relationship, but so I looked it up. It's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. No, fight, flight, or freeze. I don't know. Fawn was another one. So fight, obvious. We know what that is. Flight, obvious. And then freeze and fawn. So freeze. This.
Are you saying fawn?
Fawn. Fawn. Like a deer baby. It's freeze. This stress response causes you to feel stuck in place. Fawn. This response is used after an unsuccessful fight, flight, or freeze. The fawn response occurs primarily in people who grew up in abusive families. So sign of fawn would be over agreement, trying to be overly helpful, primary concern with making someone else happy. That's really
we need to do an episode on this.
Yeah, we do. I've never heard of that before. Signs of fawning behavior: overdependence on the opinions of others, little to no boundaries, vulnerable to narcissists, and being easily controlled and manipulated. I have someone that came to mind very quickly.
That's for another day. So yeah.
Anyway, I think it is really safe to say someone removing themselves from social situations on such a consistent basis is unhealthy. If you saw that in your partner, more than fair enough to be like, something's not right, because that's not healthy. It can be signs of so many things. And I think it is really fair for him to press into exploring that with her, because he is her partner. And if she wants him to go through life together as a partnership, they need to be working on stuff together in whatever way that works for them. I feel like removing herself from her family is kind of the sideline issue. That's like, don't do that. That would be dangerous, but really that's not the main point of what's happening, in my opinion.
Awesome.
There you go.
Well, thank you, chatters, once again for your support, and please write in. We would love to see you guys more on Patreon and just writing in your topics and so forth. I have been getting some more personal messages from you guys, which is great. If that's where you feel comfortable, please do that. We'd love to support you back. But yeah, we'd love to see that as we grow on Patreon. We'd love to see your questions and your comments and stuff in that platform too, which would be really helpful just to build that community and get that input from you guys. This would be good.
And if anyone is having issues listening to the episodes, the bonus episodes, we did find a workaround.
On Spotify.
On Spotify.
So if you are a Patreoner rather than a Spotify subscriptioner, but you've signed up on Patreon, but you want to listen on Spotify itself, write into us, because we have figured out there's been 2 or 3 people that have actually struggled with that as well. So it's not unique to you. And we figured it out what to do. Every time we've sent this on to someone that's worked and has fixed it. So please let us know if you're having issues listening to it on Spotify if you're on Patreon.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Good chat. Thanks, guys.